Great news on the healthcare front that Harvard shares with us via a study they've conducted, which of course everyone will misread. This just freaking infuriates me. So I had a guy put a comment in the show notes the other day how scared he was about healthcare, that he didn't want to retire because the cost, astronomical fear about cost of healthcare. Freaking pisses me off. Not that guy. Just pisses me off that the industry, the whole freaking thing, such a slave state mentality we're in, man. Slave state. Calgary Flames. My daughter usually wears this, but I thought it would be colder than it is, so I had to throw it on. Anyway, so a Harvard study came, and I got that via the Centers for Retirement Research at Boston College. Harvard study comes out. It says just a wonderful, wonderful thing that, again, will never be looked at as a wonderful thing from the financial industry because fear-mongering is how they get you to continue to be a slave. They said the average household net worth, or the average household who needed a married couple who could not do their activities of daily living, all right, bathing, transferring, I think what's it called, continence. There's like 6 different things you can't do. And so they needed assistance in that regard. In-home care, you name it. They need assistance in the activities of daily living. You know what the household net worth dropped by on average for someone who actually needed that? $12,000. $12,000. And that goes almost identically to what my man over at the EBRI, Employee Benefit Research Institute, who I think is now at T. Rowe Price. I forgot his name, Sunjay or Sunajay, an Indian name, great guy, who had written about this back in EBRI study a number of years ago, which I cite a lot in my book, You Can Retire on Social Security. He said the median, remember median, average, a little bit different, but in this case it's the same story. The median out-of-pocket cost for people who needed some kind of long-term care need was $20,000. I think it was actually less than that. I think it was like $7,000. I think I've rounded it up to $20,000 for today's numbers because that was like in 2015. The median out-of-pocket long-term care cost. Didn't matter if you had we're not talking about people with long-term care insurance, all right? And if memory serves, is the people who actually had an issue where they needed long-term care help of some regard, kind of like this study at Harvard says, activities of daily living, they couldn't do it on their own, so they needed assistance from somebody. The median out-of-pocket cost was, I'm going to say $20,000. I just can't remember, but it wasn't very much. You know, median means 50% pay more, 50% of people pay less. All right, so what does that mean? So the Harvard study, the average net worth declined for a married couple filing jointly by $12,000. So, but we'll just say it's $20,000 for simplicity. You're not going to retire because you don't have $20,000, huh? You got equity in your home, but you don't want to see your net worth drop at all. So I'm talking to people today, great people out in California. And they're like, but I'm showing their cash flows of retirement. So she's going to retire at the end of this year. He's already retired. And their portfolio is going to be dropped down by like $60,000 a year until he goes on full Social Security. And she goes, well, won't that dip into our principal? I'm like, yes, of course. Of course it will. Well, that makes me nervous. Then don't retire then. I don't know what to tell you. Why do you save? They got equity. They got rental income. They're sitting pretty, man. They got mortgages. The interesting thing about their mortgages, and I say in the plural because they got 2 rentals and a mortgage, a primary, a first and a second on their primary residence. The reason that doesn't bother me is simply because their cash flow from the rentals are covering all their debt. Unlike the cash flow from your home isn't covering all your debt because there is no cash flow from your house. Your primary residence doesn't provide you a cash flow. I guess you could say you're renting it out or something like that, but generally most people aren't doing that. I'm not. So there is no cash flow from your mortgage. In this case, they have a mortgage And it's cash flowing positively, or at least breaking even, because the rents are paying for all their debt. You see what I'm saying? So their debt is allowing them to increase their equity. It's leveraged, but they are getting 2 different rental incomes to pay off all their debt. And that's not a bad strategy in the least. And they're pretty active in terms of, he can fix stuff. She's very active in the real estate industry anyway, so they're not ignorant on how this stuff works, if that makes sense. So in this case, tapping your principal. So what? Whoa, Speedy Gonzalez. Fastest mouse in Mexico. Fastest mouse in Milton, Georgia, that guy. Man. Anyway, so in this case, yeah, you're going to tap in your principal. You'll tap into it until Social Security kicks in. And what you're going to see is you're going to see the median liquid net worth drop, flatten, and then go up when the debts are paid. It's almost like what they call the retirement spending smile, i.e., you spend more in the front end of retirement, you spend less on the middle end of retirement, and you spend more on the back end because of healthcare costs. I don't see that to be, no, I mean, it could happen. The likelihood of that happening for the bulk of us is there's no evidence of that whatsoever. There just isn't any, my friends. So you get the scaremongering from Genworth, from Fidelity. You're going to need all this money for healthcare costs of retirement. They use it as a lump sum. Was Fidelity now using $330,000? I said, okay, well, if you need $330,000 for healthcare retirement, you're going to need $800,000 for food, for transportation, for housing. Each, by the way, not lump sum, each. So let's look at it as a lump sum, how much you need right now for retirement to talk about putting food on the table. It's more than the $330,000 that Fidelity's saying you're going to need for healthcare costs. Because what they're doing is they're basically using a present value, a discounted model to give you a present value of the cost to pay for healthcare in today's numbers amortized over a lifespan, if that makes sense. They're saying, we'll just say you spend $6,000 a year on healthcare costs. If we do a discount rate of 5.5%, you need $180,000 if you're single, $360,000 if you're married. It's stupid. No one does that on food. No one does that on electricity. No one does that on transportation. No one does that on property taxes. It's just a fear-mongering tactic. It is great. They've done a great job at it. A man, a widow, won't retire. He's got, what, $2 million because he's worried crapless about freaking healthcare costs. Freaking horrible, man. Horrible. Study after study of real live people. Healthcare costs, out-of-pocket expenses are limited. Doesn't mean there won't be any. Doesn't mean you're not going to fall. You won't have a dip into your principal. It just means it's most likely not going to put you out. Anyway, that's great news. If I can remember, I'll put a link in the show notes for the study that Harvard came out with. It's from Harvard, but higher education would never steer us wrong, would they? Of course, they're going to couch it differently. Just caution you if you're going to read it. It's all fear-mongering, scare tactics. They talk about prescription drugs, how the cost of prescription drugs go up by 50% before you're on Medicare. You're like, okay, that sounds bad. What's the average cost for prescription drugs before I'm on Medicare? $760. Annually? Yes, annually. Household? Yes, household. So my cost goes from $760 to $1,080? I shouldn't retire because of that? It's all percentages. When you actually put in dollar terms, you see how silly this stuff is. All right, we'll see you.